Bobby Blanco from MASNsports.com joins Locked On Nationals. Today, we'll be discussing DJ Herz making his major league debut, and also Trevor Williams heads to the IL. How serious could this one be?
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another episode of Locked On Nationals. Here, I'm your host, Ryan Clary. You can catch me over on Twitter at RyanClary11 and as well as the show page at LO_Nationals. For all your latest Nationals news and notes, make sure to check us out over on Twitter. And of course, guys, look up Locked On Nationals wherever you get your podcasts, including over on YouTube, and hit that subscriber button, please, for me as well. Later on in today's show, we'll be talking a little bit about some Nats prospects, and the main ones, James Wood and Dylan Cruz, because Bobby Blanco from MASNsports.com joins us today. And Bobby, we're going to be talking about Trevor Williams heading to the IL, a little bit of a logjam coming up with this starting rotation we'll have in that second segment. But of course, Bobby, first off, how are you?
I'm doing great, Ryan. It's been a long time. Let's see. Last time I've been on was, about a couple weeks ago, a month ago. So it's been a while.
Yeah.
You and I chatted about some ball. So good to be back.
I know, of course. You know, we always love having Bobby Blanco on from MASN Sports. So, Bobby, let's just kind of jump right into it. But before we kind of get into it, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. So we'll get started with this, Bobby. Trevor Williams heads to the IL, and I've said it over the offseason, over the first few weeks of the season. I was the one saying Trevor Williams should not be in this starting rotation. Well, as it's turned out, Trevor Williams has been the Nationals' best starting pitcher so far. He has been the most consistent by far, really only having one kind of bad start this season. Trevor Williams now heads to the IL with a little bit of a flexor strain. Kind of what can you make of this injury when you were talking with David Martinez, and what kind of went on in the backgrounds, and how long can we expect Trevor Williams to be out at this point?
Yeah, it was kind of came out of nowhere because his last start came last week in Atlanta. I was down there covering that game in that series with the team, and nothing about that start raised a red flag about anything. I mean, he pitched pretty well. The Nationals won 3 out of 4, including that game on Thursday. So, you know, it was just like, all right, pack our bags, go to Cleveland, come home for this homestand. So, and then, you know, this was, I guess, early Tuesday afternoon. It was like right around noon that we got the press release that Trevor was landing on the IL with a flexor strain. It's the same injury Josiah Gray had after his first 2 starts of the year that he's currently rehabbing from. And yeah, it's just unfortunate. I mean, you know, you never anticipate making through a 162 game season with just 5 starting pitchers. You know, that's just never going to happen. So injuries, slumps, stuff like that's going to happen along the way. And I said this from the beginning of the season too. You know, the Nationals were very fortunate last year in terms of injuries toward their starting rotation. They used the second fewest starting pitchers all of last year, only to the Blue Jays. And even since the beginning of last year till now, including DJ Herz, they've only used 10 starting pitchers over the course of a season and a third, which is impressive. But like I said, you're not going to be able to get through another season. It's just unlikely you're going to be able to get through another season like that. So Trevor lands on the IL. You mentioned how unfortunate it was that, you know, he is their best starting pitcher right now. He was 5-0. He leads the team in ERA and average against. The Nats were 9-2 in his starts. So they were not just getting good production out of him. They were winning when he took the hill. So big loss for the club. The other thing that is worth mentioning too is now that we're in June, I mean, I know they're still basically 2 months away, but he was probably one of, if not their biggest trade chips coming this trade deadline. And if this is the same injury that Josiah Gray had, you know, Josiah is hopefully, knock on wood, starting a rehab assignment finally this weekend. He threw another live bullpen session Tuesday at Nationals Park, did 3 innings, 3 ups. I think it was like about 65 pitches. So if that's the timeline for this injury, that puts, you know, Trevor Williams, I mean, who knows? He could rehab quicker. It may not be as serious as Josiah's, but if he's out 2 months, that's pretty much missing the trade deadline. Who's going to take a chance on a aging swingman who had 2 good months, but then got hurt at the deadline. So that's another unfortunate part of this is that, the Nats right now have one of their best trade chips sidelined for the foreseeable future. And he's not even going to throw for 2 weeks at least. So, that's putting him not even starting to throw again until close to July. I just, I don't know. It's tough. It's a big blow to the rotation, but next man up, it was DJ Herz, which was a surprising yet still exciting. I predicted that DJ was going to make his debut sometime this year.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people thought that. We just thought that it was probably going to happen in the second half after the deadline, after someone like Corbin or Williams were either traded or moved to the bullpen, and the Nats started making way for some of these younger starters to come up. But DJ held his own last night. I mean, he got there like 3:30. It's legit 3 hours before first pitch. So, I mean, credit to him for having a whirlwind of a day on Tuesday, getting to DC from Rochester, and then pitching admirably against the Mets. I know, and his line does not represent how well he pitched, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't fantastic, but he wasn't as bad as what his line says. Those 2 runs charged after he departed the game, thanks to Derek Law, make it a little worse than it actually was, because he did pitch pretty well.
He did. And you know what? DJ Herz last year when the Nationals traded him, for those who may not remember, he was one of the main pieces of that Jeimer Candelario trade. When we sent him to the Cubs, you got back Kevin Madej, who's down single A or high A Wilmington at this point. And then, of course, you also got DJ Herz, who's been kind of the prized possession of that trade package. And he's kind of had an up and down year. We've always talked about his walk rate and kind of how that's affected him. Maybe that's why it kind of took him this long to kind of just jump up into the majors, because this guy's got the stuff. And as we saw in yesterday's game, 4 innings pitched, 7 hits, 4 earned runs. But even then, as you said, 2 of those came with Derek Law. He gave up that 2-run home run to Harrison Bader there, but 75 pitches, 43 fastballs, 19 changeups, 12 cutters, and 1 slider. DJ Herz, I thought, was really good. And again, Bobby, you know this. You follow the prospects real close down in the minors. Something that's hindered him all season long, and even since being traded from the Cubs to the Nationals, has been his walk rate. Yesterday, having a handful of walks, I believe he had 2 walks in yesterday's game. I mean, I'll take that any day. Again, obviously they were going to be limiting him and what he could pitch. He got there at 3:30 yesterday, as you said, and that, I kind of want to double click on that, to be honest, real quick. I mean, just imagine this, that your major league debut, this kid's 23 years old. I mean, he is a young kid. I don't think he was expecting to make his major league debut yesterday, if I had to imagine. Was this like a last second, like call him up in Rochester that yesterday morning and being like, hey, you're going to make your debut tonight in major leagues and go up against the New York Mets? Like, do you kind of know how that conversation went? Like, was this something that he knew the night before, or was this literally he got the call that morning? It was like, hey, fly up to DC. You're making your debut.
It's a great question. And I honestly, to full transparency, I wasn't in the clubhouse yesterday. It wasn't my turn to be there and / doing some stuff at home. But from what I've read and understood from other reports and listening to Davy's pregame presser and stuff like that, it's, I think the Nats had a good idea that Trevor wasn't going to make this start over the weekend. Trevor said he did not feel like he recovered well enough from that start, because usually, you have Trevor started on last Thursday. Friday is kind of just like a recovery day. He said he didn't feel normally. You maybe play catch on Saturday and have a bullpen Sunday. My guess is, and again, I didn't get full details from reading Trevor's quotes, is my guess is that he either didn't throw his bullpen or he didn't get very far into it because it felt weird. So that was Sunday. You come back Monday, and I think that at that point they were scrambling to find a starter, and it just so happened DJ was on that 5-day. DJ's last start came Thursday as well, so he was on that 5-day rotation already. He probably threw his bullpen Sunday and felt fine. So yeah, my guess is that he found out late Monday night, early Tuesday morning, and probably had a rough time getting travel arrangements from Rochester. I mean, we've talked to some guys like Jacob Young earlier this year, literally found out the night before and had to have his wife drive him from Rochester to DC for 6 hours, overnight. I mean, sometimes it's just brutal getting down from there for some of these guys. So And DC traffic, once you hit the metropolitan area, it could take forever to get down to Nats
It's
Park.
awful.
It's awful. So, from what I understand, the Nats were kind of in a scramble mode because Trevor wasn't rehabbing or wasn't recovering the way he normally does from his last start, didn't get to throw his bullpen the way they wanted. And then at that point, they were trying to figure out, okay, who do we just do a bullpen game? Can we afford to do that? Do we bring somebody up? Remember, DJ was already on the 40-man roster. They added him last year to protect him from the Rule 5 draft. So he's an easy guy. You can just bring up, call up, and then option back down. That's an easy roster move to make if you're placing someone on the IL. So I think all of those factors kind of played in a part, and it was a little bit of a scramble, and DJ just was, good for him. Like you said, 23-year-old kid, lucky kid out of high school in North Carolina. It just happened that it was his turn, and he pitched well.
Yeah, no, I thought he pitched really well again. I mean, as we said, went 4 innings pitched, 75 pitches in. While the Mets have not been the Mets that a lot of people thought they would be this year, they have been a real big disappointment. You're still going up against Francisco Lindor, a proven vet at this point. Yes, he has his struggles as well. Pete Alonso, I mean, these guys, they still come at you, man. And he struck out Pete Alonso, which he even mentioned in his post-game presser that, like, hey, it's pretty cool. I just struck out Pete Alonso. Yeah. So, hits 50 home runs every single year. So I thought DJ Herz looked really good for short notice. I mean, he had to come back from Rochester all the way to – I can't even imagine, like, that travel day. And then being like, hey, man, like, you're making your Major League debut tonight against a pretty solid team with some solid names on there. And, again, Mets fans show up to D.C. as well. So – it was a pretty raucous environment. I mean, kudos to DJ Herz. I don't know if he's going to be getting his starts moving forward. I don't know what the Nationals will do with him, if they're going to continue to throw him out there since Trevor Williams heads to the IL. Wait till Josiah Gray comes back. But ultimately, I mean, it's a little bit of a logjam, in my opinion, Bobby, because you've got a lot of different guys coming back. Josiah Gray will be coming back from injury. Trevor Williams eventually will be coming back from injury as well. At least we hope that it's relatively soon at this point. But the Nationals, if you look at it, and of course, Cade Cavalli, former top prospect, you got a little bit of a logjam, in my opinion. I want your thoughts on the starting rotation moving forward. Now, before that, let me tell you guys about our very good friends over at Game Time. And guys, when we talk about Game Time, I want you to know that Game Time has you covered on everything, because Game Time is an authorized ticket place for Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets so much easier. And guys, when you do it, there are killer last-minute deals, all in prices views from your seat, and their lowest price guaranteed. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. And of course, maybe you want to go to the game today, 4:05 start here at Nationals Park, going up against the Mets. I'm going to be walking up Half Street. I'll open up my Game Time app. I'll try to find a cheap ticket on their Flash Zone deals. And when I do that, be 2 clicks away. I'll have my ticket in hand, walk into the park. It's that easy. Again, just 2 clicks, and I get to see the view from my seat. If there's any obstruction or anything like that, I can get that with our friends at Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Now we get back into it with Bobby Blanco from MASNsports.com. You can catch Bobby Blanco over on Twitter at Bobby_Blanco. So, Bobby, this is kind of something that we were talking a little bit before the show started today. I kind of believe that there's going to be a logjam coming up for these Nationals starting pitchers, because as we know, the Nationals starting rotation this year has been much better than anticipated. I mean, this has been a legit, good starting rotation across the National League. Right now, the way that the rotation sits, with Trevor Williams out, you have Mackenzie Gore, Jake Irvin, Mitchell Parker, Patrick Corbin, and DJ Herz. But now you're going to have Josiah Gray coming back here soon. And again, hopefully he makes a rehab start this weekend as he inches closer to getting back up with the Nationals. And then Cade Cavalli as well, who's still down in rehab. He's going to be making a few starts over the next few months. And then you could also see him up in the majors as well. And then, of course, Trevor Williams when he comes back. So the Nationals are going to have to make a decision. There is going to be a decision that will make the fans really unhappy, because I am convinced at this point that the Nationals, while there seems to be an obvious choice, put Patrick Corbin in the bullpen. I don't believe that at this point, because again, if you're going to put Patrick Corbin up in the bullpen, that probably would have happened 2 years ago. I don't think the Nationals going into his last season, and again, they do value his leadership. I think you can mention this as well. Patrick Corbin is a leader inside the clubhouse. He's a respected vet by amongst many other pitchers across just not the Nationals organization, but Major League Baseball. He's a good guy to have in your clubhouse. I'm not convinced that the Nationals will just throw Patrick Corbin out in the bullpen at this point. And maybe they will. Maybe the Nationals option, whether it's Mitchell Parker, DJ Herz, I think, in my opinion, will be option at some point whenever Josiah Gray or Trevor Williams comes back healthy. But at this point, moving forward with that, then you pluck in Trevor Williams. Are they going to go to a 6-man rotation? Are they going to keep Mitchell Parker up in the majors? Are they going to option him? I mean, at this point, what do you kind of see with the rotation moving forward? What decision will be made? And if you're the manager, what would you do?
So I disagree with the idea that the Nationals would have put Corbin in the bullpen in the past. I don't think they were ever going to do that because there was no options better than Patrick Corbin at the time. Cavalli was hurt. Guys like DJ Herz, Jake Irvin weren't proven. Mitchell Parker weren't proven. And then now we're looking at, Jake Irvin. I always bring back, he wasn't supposed to be the guy last year, and now he's their third at worst, best pitcher in this rotation. Mitchell Parker wasn't supposed to be the guy this year, and now he's taking the ball every 5 days and pitching very well, his last start aside. So I just think that the past couple of years, there haven't been better options than Patrick Corbin to make a start. And like you mentioned, the one thing he does two things really well. One, he's a leader in that clubhouse. I mean, he makes the most money. He organizes team dinners, team lunches on the road. He buys games for them in the club. I mean, they have a ping pong table and, a putting green now in the clubhouse. He does team activity. He's a veteran in that clubhouse. That cannot be denied. That counts for something. He takes the ball every 5 days. I mean, I don't think, knock on wood, I don't think he's ever landed on the injured list with the Nationals. If he's good for 5-6 innings and 100 pitches every time out, no matter how high his ERA gets, I think there's value in that at this point where the Nationals are. But as we are at this point, the Nationals do have better options than Patrick Corbin moving forward. I thought this decision was coming up quickly because of Cavalli and Josiah Gray getting closer to the majors. Trevor Williams getting hurt throws a wrench into it. And like I said at the top of the show, it's like you never know when these are going to affect your rotation. You can't account for, just 5 starters every single season. You're going to have to kind of, have a kind of a revolving door for your rotation because injuries, slumps, stuff like that happens. So I think Patrick Corbin is still going to start for the time being. I mean, look, we're talking about at least a month until this question comes up again. Whenever Josiah Gray and Kay Cavalli are ready to come up, I think you're going to see DJ Herz go back down. I think DJ makes one more start, and this is no fault of his own. Like we talked about how admirably he pitched in a tough spot, but the Nats finally have some off days coming up. I think they can get by the next couple of weeks with just 4 and maybe a bullpen game. So I think DJ will start Sunday, but with an off day Monday and off day the following Monday, I think the Nats can kind of do some finagling with that rotation and kind of avoid him, and at least until Josiah is back. You were looking at Josiah Gray getting back late June, and that's around the same time you're supposed to get Cavalli back. If Cavalli doesn't come back till July, that is when the question will present itself again, no matter how Trevor Williams is doing, because then you'll have, Gray replacing a DJ, and then you'll have Cavalli who you're going to want to give innings to at the major league level. Now, the other thing they could do, though, is let's say Cavalli's rehab assignment expires. It definitely expires at the end of June. Pitchers can only be on a rehab assignment for 30 days. But he has options, of course, and is only on 40 minutes. So they could, at the end of his rehab, just option him down to Rochester and have him keep building his arm up at AAA on an unofficial rehab assignment until they feel he's ready to come back up to the majors. I would be surprised if they, at the end of his rehab assignment, throw him back into the major league rotation, unless those last 1 or 2 starts, he's just shoving against guys and looks the part. I think that's unlikely coming back from Tommy John, but it could happen. So I still think we're talking about. I don't think Patrick Corbin is leaving this rotation until after the All-Star break, if at all. And I think best case scenario for the Nationals is that at some point you get Trevor Williams back before the All-Star break, or maybe right after. He can make one or two more starts before the trade deadline, and then someone can finally will take a chance on him, show that he's healthy, show that he's still productive, and then someone will take a chance on him. You get a similar return like you got for Jeimer Candelario last year. I don't think they're going to be able to trade Patrick Corbin. Now, I know Patrick Corbin's overall numbers look terrible, but he actually has been solid over the last month, except for one start. He's pitched pretty much three earned runs or less, except for one start over his 6 outings in May. So that's what the Nationals are looking for him right now. I think that keeps him in the rotation until a Cavalli, a Williams, a Gray are healthier and prove that they can take over that spot. And I still think that's going to be a whiles away because of the timelines of these recoveries.
You know what? Like those are all fair points. And it's like, I just had this feeling like that the Nationals won't be able to quit Corbin. Like, I just don't know because while I do agree the Nationals didn't really have better options, I think you could have found someone down in your system, whether it be Jackson Rutledge last year, having him come up and replace him. They did do that. He did. And they did have that like 6-man rotation last year to end the season. But like, I just felt like there were options for guys, and the Nationals could have had an opportunity to put Corbin back in the bullpen, in which he might be valuable. I don't know what Patrick Corbin will do. Obviously, this is last year in his contract, so he'll be a free agent after this year. He'll likely be gone. I mean, I don't know where he'll end up. I don't know if he'll retire. Who knows at this point? Way too early to speculate on the future of his career, but I just don't know what the Nationals will do, and that's kind of just been my big, overwhelming question.
Well, I think because it is his last year, I think, and I don't mean to sound this in a negative way, but I think they're just going to wear him out.
Yeah.
I think they're going to get as much out of him as they can for the rest of the year in terms of innings, in terms of pitches. You know, how many runs he gives up, be damned. He's going to go pitch every 6 days, and he is going to, even if he is giving up 6 runs in the first inning, he's going to wear it, and he is going to, you know, he's making the most money, and it's his last year. I don't, you know, unless there's a small chance, and this is the fun part about these conversations, right? Because we could be talking about this, and then something else could change, you know, next week, and then there's a whole different conversation. But there's a small chance that you've got, and this is maybe the ideal scenario, but it's a very slight chance that you got Mackenzie Gore, Josiah Gray, Jake Irvin, Mitchell Parker, and then a healthy Trevor Williams coming back before the deadline. That's 5 guys that you want starting, because 4 of those guys are key parts of your future. One part you're hoping to flip at the deadline. Deadline comes and goes. You're able to get rid of Williams. Patrick Corbin is still here. Like you mentioned, they did it last year. I think they're going to do the same thing this year. At the second half of the season, go to a 6-man rotation, because you got guys like Mitchell Parker and Jake Irvin who are not used to pitching this many innings in the major leagues. And also you're going to have Cade Cavalli coming off a serious injury, and Josiah Gray missing 2 months plus, maybe 3 months with an injury as well. So they're going to look at, you know, that might be Patrick Corbin's value right there, is that he's going to be the 6th man in a 6-man rotation to give these younger guys extra rest, finish the season healthy, like knock on wood, like they did last year. And then thank you for your time. Thank you for your service. You're a World Series champ. You know, good luck in the future.
Those are all like great points. Like because I do subscribe to that as well. Like I think they're going to go to a 6-man rotation. I would like to see it done sooner rather than later, to be honest, because I want to see all these guys get their innings pitched. But like I just don't know if that's feasible at this point. I don't know if that's what David Martinez wants. So we'll just have to see what the Nats do. But it's an interesting conversation nonetheless. So next, Bobby, let's talk a little bit about James Wood and Dylan Cruz. James Wood is still on the shelf, battling a little bit of a hamstring strain, but Dylan Cruz, he's been a little bit hot here, Bobby. So we'll kind of discuss that, get into some ETAs for both of those guys. Before that, let me tell you guys about our friends over at FanDuel. And guys, it's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and much more. So maybe you have in the NHL Stanley Cup Finals, you've got a Connor McDavid goal on there. Maybe you want to go Oilers money line. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I am riding with Team Canada on this one. I want to see the Oilers get it done. And of course, a Connor McDavid anytime goal. And I can just do that with our friends at FanDuel. And it is so much fun. But all you've got to do is visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. Because again, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Again, FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. All you have to do is visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and again, make every playoff shot count. Now we're back into it with Bobby Blanco from MASNsports.com. You can catch him over on Twitter at Bobby_Blanco. So, Bobby, you kind of mentioned there in the last segment, the future. You mentioned the future. You've got Dylan Cruz, James Wood. James Wood has been unequivocally one of the best, if not the best hitter down in AAA across all divisions down there, killing the baseball. So when do you think at this point in time that we see James Wood up in DC, Bobby?
Man, I think all of our predictions from preseason, end of last year, early this season are all kind of, out the window because of this injury. I mean, knock on wood, it seems like it's a pretty unserious injury. I know he missed the last week. He's still on the IL. Hopefully he gets back, maybe a couple more days off. He can return to the Red Wings lineup and start mashing again. And right now, I mean, my best guess will be post deadline. I just think at this point, with an injury like this, I know people are going to be clamoring. He's hitting left-handed pitching. He's mashing the ball. The exit velos are off the charts. He's stealing bases. He's drawing walks. He's doing everything. This is not a James Wood issue. This is not his issue. The injury is his issue, but that's not anything he can control. I think it's more so at the major league level. You're going to see, like we just mentioned about running Patrick Corbin into the ground, we're going to see the Nationals run Jesse Winker, Eddie Rosario, Joey Gallo into the ground and try to get anything back at the deadline and try to find someone willing to take a chance who needs I mean, look at Ronald Acuna Jr. Injuries like that happen all the time, unfortunately. You get closer to deadline, maybe some team gets desperate and is like, all right, we need a left-handed bat. Let's take a chance on Jesse Winker. Let's take a chance on, a power bat with some potential in Joey Gallo. We need a defensive replacement. Let's get Eddie Rosario in here. I think that's what the Nationals are doing, unfortunately, for fans who want to see James Wood. So my best guess, especially with this injury now, is that he doesn't come up until August and finish the season, maybe the last 2 months of the season. I think if he comes back healthy and he's going to be up by September, no doubt. Like when rosters expand, there's no reason not. And I'm assuming that those three guys I mentioned still won't be on. At that point, what are you doing with those three guys, right? At that point, you might as well DFA them. Bobby, he'll at least finish the season with the team.
That's true. And I think, as you mentioned, I think one of the worst kept secrets is amongst the Washington Nationals right now is that they want to get Jesse Winker every exposure possible to try to trade him at the deadline because he's had a good season. I mean, he's been really good in left field. He's been solid at the plate, obviously. He's shown some power. He's stealing bases even. I mean, he's already got his career high in stolen bases this year by a ton. So Jesse Winker, I think the Nationals, they want to play him every single day, get him exposure, have his numbers look good, and then trade him off at the deadline. Same goes for Eddie Rosario. You would like to see him step it up even just a little bit more. Then also Joey Gallo. I think Joey Gallo will be traded no matter what. If not traded, I don't know what the Nationals will do with him, quite frankly, at this point.
Who's going to take him, though? He's barely hitting 200, and I know he's hit a couple of homers as of late, but, maybe with the weather getting warmer, some of those balls will start flying out. But if he's not hitting 10-plus homers by the deadline, who's going to take him? I mean, I think that could be an easy DFA.
Exactly, yeah. So I could see the Nationals just DFAing him, but it's not just James Wood. Dylan Cruz, he's been starting to kill the baseball here of late. He started off really slow in AA, as you know, Bobby, but in the month of May, he's been killing the baseball, and all the way through June now. We're on June 5th. He had a couple doubles in yesterday's game. You're starting to see the power come up as the summer comes in, and it's getting warmer weather in Harrisonburg. So Dylan Cruz, I don't know. I would think that Dylan Cruz will make it to AAA maybe within the next month and a half or so, maybe by July. I don't know when the Nationals will kind of throw him up into AAA. But then after that, I think we could be on Dylan Cruz watch, maybe to make a debut sometime mid-September, get his feet wet in the majors, and then maybe compete for a starting job in the opening day roster heading into next year. But what do you kind of make of Dylan Cruz so far? Where do you see him fitting in the Nationals equation? Does he make his debut in 2024?
Oh, 2020.
It's tough.
I'm going to say no. I think that's going to be outside of the box. I mean, I know Victor Robles is already off the books. And then those guys we mentioned probably are going to be gone. But I think that's only opening up one spot for James Wood. Because then you still have Jacob Young up here, who has proven to be their everyday center fielder.
Yep.
And Lane Thomas. So I just don't see a spot for Dylan if James is up here just yet. I think unless like Jacob Young starts struggling and isn't stealing bases, isn't providing anything in that front, getting on base and stealing bases, then maybe you can make that switch. I also have to mention Robert Hassel III because he has been killing the ball. He's been getting on base. I mean, he's had 2 very long on base streaks. I think he got broken up by 1 or 2 games, and then he's just started a brand new one. So he's been having a renaissance year too from last year and when he first got here. So that's been really fun to watch too.
That has been.
And then with Dylan, I mean, hopefully this is kind of the same thing that we see with James, but it's different because James started off well and Dylan didn't. But the further he gets away from his own hamstring injury, the better he's getting. So I think, a lot of outlets have redone their prospect rankings and they've kind of flip-flopped Dylan and James in the Nats system. And then James has jumped up in the top 5, top 3 overall. And then Dylan has fallen out of the top 10. But everyone is saying this is pretty much injury issue. Without if he didn't have a hamstring injury, we probably wouldn't be doing this. And James is, deserves the credit, but Dylan wouldn't be falling as far if it wasn't for the injury. And I think the further away he gets from it, the better he's going to be. I think we'll see him at Rochester, like you said, in the coming months, and I don't think he's going to make it this year, though. So I think it will be a fun spring training next year. The outfield battle between him, James, and Robert Hassel III, along with Jacob Young and Lane Thomas, and maybe a veteran they bring in probably.
Yeah, I think that'll all be interesting. But, I mean, obviously, Bobby, we could talk all day here. But unfortunately, we got to wrap up the show for today. So Bobby Blanco of MASNsports.com. Catch him over on Twitter at Bobby_Blanco. And, of course, you can catch him over at Nats Park when he is covering the Washington Nationals. Bobby, are you headed over to the game today?
No, because it looks like it's about to rain. And I'm going to be editing my coworker, Mark Zuckerman, from the ballpark. So I will be staying home. I actually have some errands to run, too. It's a busy week for Bobby Blanco at MASNsports.com. I'll be there Friday night for the Flo Rida concert post-game.
Oh, my God, that's right.
I'm going to try to be finishing my game story, transcribing these guys, and writing a morning post while Flo Rida's having a concert at Nats Park.
I totally forgot that was tomorrow. Oh, my God.
No, it's Friday. Tomorrow is
Friday. That's right.
Tomorrow's night out. Best night out in baseball. That's always a fun night. Good for the Nationals putting that on. And then I think there's a bobblehead Saturday, too. So actually, finally, they're home. I mean, before we go, I want to point out this weird schedule. The Nationals have played the most interleague games, the most road games, and the fewest home games of anyone in baseball.
I know.
That's crazy.
I know. It has been a little weird here. So maybe the Nationals get back on track here as Yeah, no, seriously. I mean, I totally forgot about the Flo Rida concert coming up here soon. So for not gonna lie, I get a little size for Flo Rida concert. I'm gonna have to make an appearance. Oh wait, no, I can't. I got a birthday party that night. But
he's got some bangers.
Oh, Flo Rida's definitely got some bangers. So you know what? I'll probably talk about that on Friday a little bit. Some people will hate it, but you know what? We're gonna have some fun. So Bobby, always appreciate the time, man. You have a good one, all right?
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Anytime. Have a good one.
All right, that's Bobby Blanco from MASNsports.com. We are Locked On Nationals here, and enjoy the game today if the Nationals do play. But, of course, we will catch you on the flip side. Have a good one.